It's hotter than a fucking devil's armpit over there today. No, there will be no hot tea in sight. We have reached the point of no return. Electrolytes and ice water from here on till hell freezes over. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another review by Kate, your autistic book reviewer. I keep it straight and to the point and logical for all of you, and today I'm going to be talking about The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. If you liked this book and you want to get your own copy at the end, or you don't own a copy yet and you want to get one, make sure to use my bookshop.org link below. It helps me to keep putting out content for all of you guys at no extra cost for you. And what's also awesome about it is that you can select your local indie bookstore and help support them as well. This gives you another alternative to Amazon, even though I know Amazon's helpful for all those indie publishers and indie artists out there, but sometimes we gotta mix it up. Let's be honest, I am struggling so much today, friends. Now you might see that this video is a little bit different than what you're used to because it is probably 4 or 5 times longer than any of my other book review videos alone. Not book club and podcasts. We all know those are like an hour. I decided to mix things up and do something a little bit different. So if you look at my timestamps below, you can skip ahead to my real-time reactions to reading The Assassin's Apprentice here. I decided to record sections along the way. There will be extremely detailed spoilers from that point on. You've been warned. Don't worry, I'll keep it spoiler-free up to that point and give you guys a warning as well, so you can see if you even want to read the book, and then you can come back and watch my reaction to reading this book for the first time. I know I'm late to the party. So many people have read this book and it's like 20 years old. I had to wait for it to be 20 years old to finally get to it. But I'm so glad that now is the time because I am in my epic fantasy girldom right now. I am ready to be absorbed. I am ready to be consumed. And good thing, because there's like 19 books altogether in this, so wish me luck. Also, what's great about my end time reviews too is I do give detailed explanation of what's happening as a plotting wise. So if you're further along in the series and you need a recap of book 1 because you've forgotten a few things, or it took you a while between book 1 and book 2, you can also watch through that as well, and it will update you on things happening so you can be remembered and have a better time reading it. That's like my least favorite thing in the whole world is when I don't remember stuff before I read the next book. So hopefully I won't have to watch my own video and I'll get to book 2 pretty quickly. And if you liked this format and you liked my real-time reactions, make sure to comment below. It did take a lot of work to record and edit. It took me out of the book a little bit. So if no one really likes it, I don't really want to do it again. But if people are really invested and they enjoyed it and they got a lot out of it, I'm more than happy to do it more. But I definitely need some feedback to know what it's a yes or no. Now, let's be honest, this is already way too long of a video. And right now you are just here for my thoughts on Assassin's Apprentice. Now, I did give it 4 stars. There are a few issues with it that are personal preference issues. I don't think that a lot of people have the same opinion or thoughts on my issues. I have talked to a few people, heard a few reviews, and I don't think that they were as troubled by the things that I was. Let's first start with some of the good stuff. I think that Robin Hood created an amazing world that is unique in ways, but also just kind of familiar, so that, let's say, like, it was unique but still kind of done. But not in a bad way. I wanted to read more. Don't get me wrong. I did. There's the emotions, feelings. I think Hood was trying to go around this idea of the chosen one. So many of epic fantasies, especially during that time period, are centered around a chosen one. We kind of see that there is a slight chosen ideal around Fitz, the main character, and the idea that because of him, he becomes a catalyst. He is not a chosen one, but he is a catalyst to a lot of historical events that happen in his world and his city, and that makes sense. I mean, he is a bastard after all. We find that out very quickly. I'm not spoiling anything. So he is a catalyst to things happening. He is the rolling ball down the hill that sets up a cataclysm of events and other rolling balls. I think that's great. I think that was a very original approach to something that is very much overdone. And I think that sometimes we can get stodgy and bogged down by it. I personally love the chosen one aesthetic. I personally think I am a chosen one in my own life. And so I need to read about others like me so that, you know, I can learn from them and achieve my chosen one aesthetic. So Fitz isn't something astounding or amazing or anything of those means. He is really a normal person that finds himself in this situation that we're presented in book one, and he goes about it in a very typical human fashion. I mean, for most of the book, I will warn you, he is a child to a young, like pre-teenish doll. I don't think we get very far past like 13 or 14. So for some people who don't like to read about children, I can understand that. I know that for a lot, they don't want to read fantasy books that center around a childhood's perspective, but there was a maturity to it. There is a distance in the writing, which is the problem for me, and I'll get to that later. There is a distance in the writing which then helped it to stay an elevated sense, so we're not bogged down into the mind of like a 6-year-old, which is essentially when the story begins, is when he's 6. The other thing that's helping, which is another problem for me, so that's two problems, is that this story is told from the perspective of a historical narrative from the author himself, Fitz. So the beginning of the book starts by him explaining that he's writing a history of his bloodline, I don't really remember exactly the history that he's writing, and he decides that the only way to be able to tell that history is by telling his history, because again, he's a catalyst. And so because it is the older Fitz, which tells you that he lives through everything, because he is an older Fitz telling this story, we do get a more mature take on it, because he's telling it from his mature eyes. He's telling it from the memories that he has. He's telling it not from a 6-year-old seeing the world for the first time. And again, you're not really reading a young child's story or mindset, and that does help, because I also agree, I don't want to read a 6-year-old's mind, and I stopped reading YA for a reason. Watermelon electrolytes, these are saving me this summer. Other things I really liked the magic system. I loved and hated the animal aspect of the book. I loved the large cast and how detailed that they were written. I appreciated that this was more set on a coastline. I love stories centered around seas and coastal towns and just all of that as well. Fitz was a lovable character. I think that I can find myself in a lot of characters as well, and I have been told that we're going to get a lot of characters as we keep going through all 19 books as well. The writing was thick and very... I'll say this, I was reading the book and I couldn't be surprised how much was in a way already covered, while also feeling like I didn't read anything. So it's a light read. It's not like Lord of the Rings, where you feel like you have to sit there and pay attention to every the, it, and that in the writing. I don't feel that is the way with Hobb's writing in Assassin's Apprentice, but I do feel like there is a lot covered, and I'll get to more about the ending of the book in a second for all of that as well. So much is left hanging at the end of this book. I would not say that there's anything about book one that is wrapped up whatsoever. I think we see one tiny plot point played out from start to end, but it feels like it was always sitting in the background as like a subplot that then became the main plot, so that there could be an ending to book one. But in a way, it really doesn't feel like anything has been resolved or happened. And I guess this is where I do say that Tolkien comes in as someone who influences these writers, because I could see a lot of Tolkien influence in Hobb's writing, her style, and the fact that this book ends the story isn't over. There's no arc to the book itself. And that's very much how like Fellowship of the Ring ends before we get to the Two Towers. Now, at the end of the book, without any spoilers, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything, but at the end of the book, I do feel that it was a whirlwind. I was thrown about, and I don't know if that was on purpose, because I feel like that is also what kind of happened to Fitz as well, but felt thrown about, so much information thrown at me. I was dazed and confused, and at one point I just had to put the book down and breathe. Now you can see more of that reaction in the reaction portion of this video. But just to give you an idea, it was a lot. I felt like a lot of stuff just happened. I felt a lot wasn't explained. I felt that chess pieces had been moving in the background this whole time, and they were finally revealed, but not in a good way. Not in a, oh look, here's the big reveal, here's the plot twist I had been building up in the background. No, it was more of like, we weren't given enough information to begin with, that then when the ending came around, it was like, oh, here's the shiny X marks the spot. I did kind of build it up, but I didn't give you enough. I see we're going down the train of me talking about what I don't like about the book, so I guess I'll go a little bit more. I didn't appreciate the narrative style of the story, especially with the fact of Fitz telling his own historical thing here. It created too much distance for me. It caused issues with the dialogue, and now let me tell you, I said Fellowship of the Ring didn't have good dialogue or a lot of dialogue. This book was worse. And I am someone who I really love dialogue. I think that it can be witty and fun and informative and just exciting and really show characters and build a beat to the story. And dialogue was extremely lacking in this book, which makes sense because it's a historical, telling of what happened. Who remembers word for word dialogue whatsoever? So that was a big problem to me, is that it was so distant and so much telling. There was very little showing in this book that I just wasn't 100% absorbed into the story as I would have been. That doesn't mean I wasn't completely absorbed and really enjoying to take my time reading this book. That was the thing. I had to take my time to enjoy it and really get through this book. I also don't appreciate the animal issues in this book. Yes, I'm going to spoil you. Dogs do die in this book. There are dog issues. I did not like it. I really struggle, and I have been warned to buckle up, Buttercup, because it is only going to get fucking worse. So you have been warned. I don't wanna. I don't wanna. I think that this is the place. That's one thing I loved and hated the animal aspect, because animals are such a big part of the book, and I love that. I don't want anything to happen to them, and I don't like that Hobb let things happen to them. You also really have to like politics and crown chess pieces and the moving around of players to really enjoy the book as well. There's a lot of politics of this world playing out on the page, and so that's something that you have to like and see. Again, if you really do like Fellowship of the Ring, this probably is a really good book for you, because like I said, it's different and unique, so you get something fresh. It's still the same qualitative style of epic fantasy, and it still has some of the things that you probably really liked about the Fellowship in this. Because that's the other thing about Frodo. He was never the chosen one. He was just chosen. He was just the one that happened to be on the receiving end of the ring. And that's the same as Fitz. It's not like he's the chosen one. He just happened to be the catalyst because he was created. I'm really excited to see where the rest of the series goes. I'm really excited to see how Fitz grows up, because I'm pretty sure this entire first trilogy is just about him. I hope we get more boat stuff. I hope we get more answers to questions, which I think you'll understand when you read the book. And a little bit more dialogue. Maybe because he'll be older and it's more fresh in his mind, he'll remember more things as well. And I hope we get more happy animals. Happy. I can't complain to Hobb because it's already written. I can't sit here and be like, do better. No, it's already done. What else do I have to say? I always ask this question. I'm finding it as part of the tick off point for all of you, is what else do I have to say about this book? I think we covered it. If you do have more questions or something I itched in you but I didn't actually touch on, make sure to leave a comment below. Comment spoiler if there's spoilers. But I will try to answer all the questions that you might have below. Otherwise, you want to read the book, don't forget my bookshop.org link below. Click away now if you have not read the book and you don't want spoilers. Otherwise, hang around, because there's going to be some very unmakeup me versions coming on here. So pardon, but I made it realistic in the moment as soon as I was done reading. And so have some fun, friends. Bye.
Hi, I just finished day 1, which is the 50 pages of The Assassin's Apprentice. I can't say that I was a fan in the first 3 pages, and I was regretting the choice that my partner picked. Very hardcore regretting the choice. It picked up when we get to the portion of the story where he starts telling his own history. So we start with the 6-year-old little boy, and we go through all that. Now, my mind is completely changed at the end of chapter 1, and I'm going to give you and tell you why and show you why. These are the last 2 sentences of chapter 1. I grew up fatherless and motherless in a court where all recognized me as a catalyst, and a catalyst I became. Chills. Just fucking chill. I'm not normally a fan of narrative style stories where essentially we have someone telling us a story in the book. I find the writing to be distant, very distant for me. I want immersive writing that just sucks me in and I'm succumbed to the details and the descriptions, and there's a lot more dialogue in the style I like, where it is this narration style, depending on what part of the history they're in, is whether or not there's a lot of dialogue. And there's not so much a lot of dialogue in this one, except for key moments. But I'm finding Hobb is doing just a beautiful job of keeping her writing close and descriptive and immersive still, while having that distance. I do find myself getting weary a lot faster as I'm writing it because I'm not able to escape as much in it, but that could very well be just a me problem. I'm also really appreciating that we're not spending a lot of time with him being like 6 in the story. I'm not really into reading about 6-year-old little boys, but what is it, Fritz? Is that what we're calling him? Yes. No, Fitz. There's no R in it. I'm finding Fitz very relatable. And I think that's also a huge draw into the story and why I'm really liking it. Yeah, I'm excited to go on this journey. We have 19 books, and it's gonna be a journey, all right. I don't know if I was ready for it, but I can see why people are in love. I might be brainwashed with the rest of them. Hello, I am on page 86 now, start of chapter 5 for The Assassin's Apprentice. Hobb has this way of creating these characters that your heart is just fully... My heart's already gone out to a few of the characters. I'm only 85 pages of the way in, and I already feel like I'm fully immersed in this story and fully immersed into the characters and the relationships, and I'm feeling for them. So she has this like really great way of creating these characters that you feel for and want to know more about and hang out with in a way. But then she still has these little bits of twists and turns that just keep you wanting to turn the page from a plot perspective, even though I feel like this book is like 99% character. And I don't like character books. Character books don't hold my attention. Character-driven books don't hold my attention as well. But this one, I'm changing my mind. To give an update on the plot, Fitz has grown up. He has now been accepted by the king. He already, since he's been accepted by the king, he's now has a place in the keep instead of staying with Burrich, and he's starting lessons. So he's learning how to fight, he's learning how to properly care for animals, and now he just had a complete stranger show up into his bedchamber and be like, follow me. Here's like the little plot thing that keeps us like the Hobb feeding us crumbs so that we're not just reading this for the plot. I mean, for the characters. So she just leaves us a crumb, and so in the middle of the night, Fitz just follows this bedraggled stranger up to this room and learns that this guy is essentially the assassin, and would he like to learn how to be an assassin? And he spends the first night with him, and we come to the point of like, he's starting to speak, and he's starting to have a voice, and he's starting to be a human being, and it's I like this little twist. I like how we have a moment in the stables of Burrich where Fitz is finally speaking and asking all these questions, and Burrich is like, who the fuck are you now? Because I was worried about you this whole time because you were talking, you were silent, you had almost become a beast yourself, and I lost you, and now like you're talking and asking questions. And so we're starting to see this boy, who I think he's almost 10 now, starting to blossom into something more, and we're getting the tone of voice that we saw in the very beginning of the book. So I'm very excited that I have a gremlin day today, and that's why I'm in like this, because I'm hopefully just going to spend the whole day reading, though I need to finish Fellowship of the Ring by the end of the month, and I still have like 100 pages, so there will be a few breaks for me to hopefully knock out 20 pages in the Fellowship of the Ring, which, if we all know And we've all read Lord of the Rings. We know that 20 pages is no small feat. I just finished chapter 5. My heart is breaking a little bit. I feel like it's breaking more than it did when the dog died, only because of, like, the betrayal feeling that Fitz is going through, and how we can't go back to what was before. Or maybe this is just hitting way too close to home for me. I don't know, but I am so heartbroken right now. Oh my god. I feel like I want to keep reading only for the very fact that I need something happier to get to. Yeah. Okay, from a storytelling plot catch up. Essentially, Fitz was asked by, is it Chade? Is his name Chade? God, I'm gonna have to make a character list for this because you know me and names. This is gonna say Chade. So essentially, you know, Fitz is keeping on his typical studying, blah blah blah, and Chade asked him to essentially steal something from the king, and Fitz is like, I can't, because I made a deal that I would never betray the king, because then he'll never betray me, and I gave him my loyalty, and and so essentially broke them up. Chade was like saying the worst possible things to Chad. Chade was saying the worst possible things to, my brain's already fucked. Chade was saying the worst possible things to Fitz to convince him to betray the king, and saying it was a game and nothing would matter and just do it. And like, if he wouldn't do it, like, how dare he betray Chade and everything Chade has done for him, and how is Chade ever supposed to have any sort of like respect for him again and love for him, and look at all that he did, and blah, 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 blah. Just go through the long list of things, and Fitz kept refusing to ever do something like that again, like refusing it. And so he had to go through this whole grief process, and just felt so lonely and just like sicker than a dog, and just all that betrayal. Like the first time a child anyway. And so Birch really did try to step in. He let him like play with the animals and bond a little bit, but was like, you're not going to get anything where with that if you keep bonding with the animals, because that's not what humans do. It's not gonna make you feel better. But then he feeds him drink, and what the fuck? Like, you're gonna tell me that drinking alcohol is a better response than bonding with some fucking animals? No. But then finally, I don't remember what happened to instigate it. Oh, so Fitz then started, like, days, maybe even a week or two later, started just bawling in his room and like letting out all the pain that he's held for so long. And Chade, like, I guess heard all that and came in and told him the truth. And then the king invited Fitz to his room and was like, it was my idea. I told Chade to do this so that you could, you know, prove your loyalty to me and all this stuff, and that, you know, it was not Chade's idea at all. And so then life like kind of returns back to the original, but we all know that's never gonna like ever return back to reality and originality ever again. And so yeah. Okay, done with chapter 6. Let me double check. Yes, done with chapter 6. Definitely not as sad as chapter 5. I am appreciating the style that Hobb is doing, where she's really, again, balancing this great character storyline and all of this stuff, and like this cozy fantasy, the reasons that we love to just sit in fantasy worlds and stories. We have this great moment where Fitz just goes into town and is shopping, and he's like getting candles and connecting with people, and it's really a great moment, and it's so cozy and sweet, and we're getting to understand the world. And then Hobb just is doing her thing, where it's like all of a sudden the chapter ends on this sort of cliffy hanger plot moment, super heavy, super great. And I don't know, I'm really loving this juxtaposition that she's